Nekocon is the longest running anime convention in my home state of Virginia. Is it something I would recommend that you travel across the country for? Not necessarily, but to us locals, it's something that we look forward to every year. But I have a complaint about Nekocon, which is that Nekocon is incredibly inconsistent. It is a 50-50 chance if that year is going to be a hit or a miss. I've been going to Nekocon since 2017, and I think 2023 was pretty bad, but 2024 was probably the best one that I've been to because they improved so much from the year prior. So with that improvement that we saw last year, we had high hopes for the 2025 convention, and we left on Sunday thinking that the con just left a lot to be desired. Literally, everyone I talked to about Nekocon said the exact same thing, that it was fine, but it was boring. They had a good time with their friends, so did I, but other than that, it didn't really seem like there was much to do or see. There were also complaints per usual from people working with and for the convention. So yeah, we have a lot to unpack about what was up with Nekocon this year. Why was it such a flop when the year prior was so good? Of course, I want to talk about the good things that it did as well. Let's get into all of it right now. But before we get into it, hi, my name is Ezra Faye and I am your favorite background noise. By the time I'm filming this, I have already exceeded 10K followers, which is super exciting. Thank you so much to everyone who has supported me thus far. And guys, let's just be real. I'm gonna be fixing this sweater a lot because if you've ever worn an off-the-shoulder sweater, you know they're a lie. And I'm gonna be fixing my hair a lot. So if you could just do your best to disregard, that would be great. Even before we get to Thursday night of the convention, we have our first hiccup. One thing that the locals know about Nekocon is that not only is Nekocon inconsistent in the quality of their events, they're very inconsistent when it comes to communication, and this is where our first issue comes from. So I want to say it had to be like the week of the con, maybe a little bit earlier. They just posted randomly that they were going to be doing back checks, and they said that this was the policy of the convention center, not them. There was nothing they could do. It was out of their hands. Me personally, I don't have a huge problem with that, but I know a lot of people were concerned about things like bringing their own food, line times, stuff like that. Other people understood the back checks being like, oh, well, it's so they can make sure that they're not giving substances to minors, which has been an issue in the past. Either way, people were very frustrated at this communication for whatever reason. But what was weird was that literally the next day, right after Nekocon was like, oh, it's out of our hands, there's nothing we can do about it, they were like, haha, just kidding, no more bag checks. And everybody's just kind of like, I thought there was like nothing y'all could do about it. It was a little weird, whatever. But let's move on to the actual con. Thursday night, we headed over to the convention center to grab our badges, and this is my first positive point towards Nekocon because they have really optimized their badge pickup process. I remember a few years ago, we would get to badge pickup right as it opened and there was a whole line wrapped around the entire convention floor. But these past 2 years, it's been pretty much in and out in 10 minutes or less. So I'm super happy about that. But this is also where Nekocon gets their first negative point because me and my fiance, JP, were pressed this year, which was really exciting for me because this is my first time doing press ever. What was frustrating was when we went to registration to get our press ribbons, nobody actually knew where to get them from. I remember we got our badges and I was like, great, thank you. Where can I get my press stuff? And nobody knew the answer. The guy didn't know the answer. The supervisor didn't know the answer. It ended up being a whole wild goose chase. And it just was a little strange that nobody really knew the answers. Did having a press ribbon necessarily stop me from doing anything? No, but being as it was like my first press, I just really wanted that memento, sue me. But also it would probably be a good idea to make sure that your staff, especially registration, is informed on any registration related thing. But we just decided, you know what, it's just Thursday night, we can figure it out later. So we ran around the convention center for a little bit. We talked to some friends. They did have a couple of panels on Thursday night, and I was really disappointed because they didn't have the ribbon meetup on Thursday night this year. When I looked at the schedule for the convention prior to the event, when I typed in ribbon, nothing popped up on the schedule. schedule. But then when I was looking at the schedule, when I was writing the script for this video, I typed in ribbon again, and it turns out there were ribbon meetups all throughout the weekend, but I either missed it or they added it last minute, because I'm telling you, there was nothing for ribbons Thursday night. Me and JP get really competitive about the ribbons, and we also pass out ribbons, so we were, you know, a little bummed about that. After running around the convention a little bit, we actually went to PBR, this cowboy bar, with only one goal in mind, which was to ride the mechanical bull. We did this last year, and at this point it has to be tradition. We were the only people in that club and the only people in costume, of course, but I am happy to say that out of the four of us, I lasted the longest. I did. It wasn't very long at all, but I swear, like, the lady operating the bull, like, she wanted us out of there. She was like, got us off immediately, but I still lasted the longest. A win is a win. We went to my friend's Halloween party for a little bit, and this was super fun. I actually got to meet a lot of mutuals that I did not know were at the con or in the area to begin with. I said I wasn't gonna go hard on a Thursday night, and I did, but it's okay. We made it home, and we can get into when the con actually starts Friday morning. Can we take this home? We need toilet paper. There you go. And guys, I don't know where else to put this in the video, so I just have to say it now. I saw multiple people cosplaying Christian. Pretty funny and random and a little bit like, was that the best choice? Do what you want, I guess. So Friday morning, I wore my Boa Hancock cosplay, which I was really excited about because this is one of my first big cosplay projects that I've done. If you've been here for a minute, you know that this year my goal has been to start learning how to sew, and I have definitely made strides. I'm not gonna go over my whole sewing journey right now. I got the initial Boa Hancock cosplay, and I remember trying it on and I was like, this has no spice, this has no flavor, it needs something. So I did all of the embellishments myself. I actually ripped off the sleeves, added a bunch of layers and embellishments, sewed them back on, which was such a pain in the butt. Like, some of the lace I tore off of thrifted pillowcases out of the bargain bin. Like, I really did my very best. It's definitely not making a whole cosplay from scratch, but it is definitely a step in the right direction, and I got a lot of compliments on it, so that made me really happy, and I'm hoping that I can do even more from here. The first thing that we did on Friday was we went to check out the Cosplay Craft Fair, which is basically a yard sale for cosplays, crafting materials, fandom merch, literally anything that you're trying to get rid of, all secondhand and all at a great price. I thought this was a great concept. You just went in and people had their tables set up of all of the random stuff. I got this bag of lace for like $5. If you know me, you know I love sewing lace onto everything, so this was a steal. I'm all about sustainability in crafting as I'm learning like how much waste it actually produces. So I think this is a great thing. I hope that they continue to do this. My one complaint with it is that it was so small in there, but what they did do that I like was they actually had someone with a sign walking up and down the main con floor, like saying like, hey, come check out this cosplay craft fair. I wish more events did that, because that was the only way that we were like, oh, here this is, let's go check it out. We went over to the game room to check it out, and I've gotta say, I might have had my expectations a little too high after experiencing the game room at Otakon. That absolutely blew my mind. I will admit, it's my fault for expecting something of the same caliber at this local con. It was fine in there. I mean, the game room is never something that we spend too much time in. It does kind of make me laugh because you think about it, like, some people pay for a convention badge, and these Nekocon badges aren't cheap, by the way, and all they do is sit in the game room all week. And it's like, if you don't have those consoles at home, I guess that makes sense, but if you do, it's like, what are you doing? It was weird because we were hoping to see some arcade machines, maybe a gacha machine or two, but when we walked in, all of the arcade machines were just shoved into a corner, turned off, and there was no signage or anything, and that was the one thing that we wanted to do, so we just backed it right up. Well, we went to the artist alley, right? And I was actually very pleased with the artist alley this year. The Nekocon artist alley has been such a huge flop in the past, and the way that they've used that space has been abhorrent. There's been years where there's several empty tables in there despite several artists that I know of getting rejected makes absolutely no sense to me. There's also been years where they share the room with the celebrity tables, and they always make like these huge spaces for people to line up for the celebrity. So it's just when you walk into the artist alley, it's this big empty expanse, and it just makes it feel so bare in there. This year, however, it was a full room. I think there was only one empty table this year. I'll take it. A win is a win. When it comes to local cons, you expect to see the same artists over and over again, and we usually do, but I was excited because there were a lot of artists that I haven't seen before, and I got a lot of good loot, guys. I did. I didn't spend nearly as much money at this con as I anticipated and budgeted, but that's okay because it can go towards Christmas shopping now. And they had their 18 plus section in the artist alley, and we were particularly appreciative of how they set this up because they did a really good job of concealing everything and making it super like discreet and not in your face. And they also had like signs posted up saying like, hey, maybe don't have this on display. Maybe wait until you get to your hotel to open this up. That should be common sense, but we know common sense doesn't exist in these types of settings or just in 2025 in general, so we were appreciative of that. But what was strange about the 18 plus section, what was strange about the 18 plus section was that a lot of the stuff inside of the 18 plus section was perfectly family friendly. Like some of these booths, everything on their booth was family friendly, and they had maybe like one or two risque things in there that were kind of questionable, but we were just kind of like, what are they doing in here? Maybe there just wasn't enough space in the artist alley, so they just took what they could get. But then there was stuff in the artist alley, like out in the open for everyone to see, that was like real raunchy and real like, I don't know if kids should be looking at this. That was just out in the open. Like, I feel like they should have been switched around. I don't know what the criteria was, but okay. While we're talking about celebrities and use of space, I just want to talk about like the celebrities themselves. I am not usually someone who goes to conventions for the celebrities. Another thing with Nekocon and with local cons in general, they're not getting the biggest names in the industry. They're usually getting like side characters or more niche people in their field, which is fine. And while I'm happy that they moved the celebrities out of the artist alley and gave them their own separate space, they just gave them the weirdest space. And they did this last year too, where Nekocon is a 2-story building. They put their celebrities on the 2nd floor and all the way in this like back corner. And it's just kind of like hidden away, to be honest. You could experience the entire con and have a good time without ever going upstairs. So especially when we have these smaller name celebrities, people might not necessarily know they're there or where they are because they're shoved upstairs in this corner. There's no advertising for them besides social media, which not everybody looks at the Nekocon social media. I feel like it can't be good for business for them. Something else that I'm really happy with that Nekocon has improved upon is their food situation. They have boba, they have mochi donuts, they have taiyaki, they have onigiri, all sorts of stuff. Ben and Jerry's on top of the actual convention food. JP got this Loco Moco for a decent price that was big, it was hot, and it was actually really good. And I've got to say, Nekocon is one of the only cons that I've ever been to that really leans into these fun food options that actually pertain to Asian culture. That's something that I really like that Nekocon does, and I hope that they continue to build on that even more because it's also a way that they partner with the local businesses. After we had done the artist alley and we walked around, we talked to some people, I got some interviews. We had about an hour until the One Piece meetup, and we found ourselves in this situation where we didn't have anything to do. We didn't want to go to the dealer's room because we still needed something to do the next day. We didn't want to go to the Make Cafe because, first of all, it's in the hotel attached to the convention center and the line is always extremely long and it's expensive, so we weren't doing that. And there weren't really any panels that were sticking out to us, and there weren't really a lot of activities, so we just kind of had had to sit and wait. And I noticed a lot of people doing the same, just sitting around. Shout out Nekocon again, providing a lot more seating options this year, which is a good thing. But at the same time, like, we don't want all of the asses in the seats. We want asses doing the activities as well. And the One Piece meetup was fine as far as meetups go. It was a very small turnout though, in contrast to the past few years, but actually the entire turnout for Nekocon period was extremely small, which was really surprising considering last year's improvement. The thing with Nekocon is people will always find something to complain about. So even last year when I was leaving the con thinking like, wow, they did a really good job this year, other people had plenty of stuff to complain about. So I don't know, maybe I'm the only one who thought they did a really good job last year. But after the One Piece meetup, there was still nothing that was exactly sticking out to us. So we just went home and we got into our night outfits. But it was Halloween, and it's cliche to say this, but that night was a movie. Me and my friend Sarah dressed up as the Onceler, or as people called us, the Twicelers, and we ate that up. We did. Were we a little bit drunk? Yes. That just made it more fun. We were blasting music in the car. We were doing photo shoots at 7-Eleven. We were hanging out with friends and making our little tipsy TikToks. Sarah's boyfriend did Bill Cipher, so we were really leaning into the Tumblr sexy man era. And I was also finally on Friday night able to secure my press ribbons. And a lot of people complained about the Friday night rave, but honestly, I didn't think it was that bad. I've already been to the worst anime rave of my life this past summer, so this one was great by comparison. It's always my complaint with con raves, not just Nekocon, that they never play anime music at the anime con rave. It wasn't that the music Friday night was necessarily bad, I don't understand why they can't play anime music. Me and my friends were talking about how the energy in the crowd both nights of the rave actually was just not there. Like, almost everyone was just standing around, and then me and Sarah are shaking our asses, but that's okay. I guess just like more attention for us. After getting home at 1 a.m. and eating a fistful of lunch meat for some reason, I woke up on Saturday miraculously not hungover and ready for Saturday. For today's cosplays, we did Hidan and Shikamaru, which we always like doing together. JP made me Hidan's scythe last year, and he doesn't think it's good, but I love it so much. So if we could hype up JP's craftsmanship, because that was his first prop he ever made, and I think he ate it up. So we started off the day at the Naruto photo shoot, which had an even smaller turnout than the One Piece photo shoot, which again, the Naruto shoots have had huge turnouts in the past few years, so I don't know what was going on. It was a bummer that there weren't a lot of people at these meetups, because these meetups are where I've made a lot of long-lasting friendships. It's not that I didn't try to talk to people at these meetups. I do. When there's less people, there's less chance for connection, and I always say just because you're in the same fandom as someone doesn't mean you're meant to be friends. I digress. The convention was definitely filling up a bit more this day, so after the Naruto meetup, it was time for the vendor's room. And per my last video on this channel, which is actually my highest performing video to date, I know, you guys know how I feel about the vendor's room, and you know how I feel about the types of things being sold at conventions. And I will say I was surprised there was not as much slop as I thought there was going to be. Because I've been to so many smaller cons this year that have been slop central, I thought they'd definitely be flocking to a big con like Nekocon, but I was pleasantly surprised. There was this one table though that was literally the final boss of con slot. Everything that I've ranted about in past videos was on that table. There were just so many tables this year where it felt like someone just threw whatever random anime or Japanese or Asian culture things they could find on a table and were just like good enough. Like, so many of these tables had no theme, had no consistency. Like, it was really just like a smorgasbord. I know a handful of people that either did vend or tried to vend at this convention, convention and said that there were just a lot of hoops to jump through, really bad communication. Necocon's kind of notorious for it. I was also super surprised to see one of my favorite makeup brands there, Surreal Makeup. This stuff is good. This stuff is really good. I buy something from them every time. Amanda is the lady that you always see there doing the demonstrations, and she's all decked out in her product, and she just has great energy. She always makes personalized recommendations, and her glitter eyeshadows are the best, the most pigmented, the most high shine, high sparkle, better than anything you could ever get at Sephora at a fraction of the price. I have so many of them. This time I got the shades Cashmere and Platinum. Another vendor that we saw is Laura Illustrates, who we always buy from. She is so kind. We've visited her booth at every con we go to, pretty much she's there. We've got her prints all over the house, so if you ever see her at a con, buy something. This is not a suggestion. This is a demand. By now, you're probably wondering why Obama was in the thumbnail. There was a rumor that Obama witnessed Nekocon, okay? I know it's crazy, but yeah, it's crazy. So Sunday afternoon of the con, as we were leaving to go change into our night cosplays, a bunch of lanes were coned off, there were police cars everywhere, and there is another event space, the Hampton Coliseum, that's literally right across from the convention center, where there was also an event going on. We didn't know what, but we figured all these cones and all these police cars are because there's two events at once trying to regulate traffic, whatever. Anyways, I get on social media and suddenly everybody's talking about, oh my god, Obama saw Nekocon, Obama saw Nekocon, because Obama was in Virginia with Abigail Spanberger that weekend, and somehow word got out that he was speaking at the Coliseum across the street. I can now verify this is not true. He was in Norfolk, which is like 15 minutes from where the convention was without traffic. So nearby, but definitely not witnessing Nekocon, and I'm just very curious about where that rumor started. Okay, now while we're talking about leaving Saturday afternoon to change into our night cosplays, I'm gonna go on another tangent here because I just need to get this out of my system. I'm about to be 25. Am I old? No. But I do believe that I am entitled to experience aging and feel certain ways about aging. However, I do so. And I'm noticing that I just cannot do conventions like I used to be able to. And it's a very strange thing to come to terms with. Even 2 to 3 years ago, when we were doing these all weekend conventions, I could go nonstop. No sleeping, no eating, no relaxing, just go, go, go. And I never felt the after effects of it. But when I tell you, even Friday morning of this con, I woke up feeling like shit, body sore, head hurting, knees hurting, back hurting. Like all I wanted to do was sit down, like I was about to just not even get into cosplay. And so Saturday, I left the con at 3 because I was like, before I change for the night and do all this crazy party stuff all over again, I need to sleep. I slept for 3 hours. And 2 years ago, I would not have been able to fathom leaving the con for that long of a period of time because of FOMO, just not needing to. I would have changed in the bathroom. So it's just weird, like seeing how my con habits are changing and like how I experience them is changing. Doesn't mean it's over, it's just different and it's weird to acknowledge. But anyways, let's keep talking about Saturday night. So one of my favorite things about Nekocon is the convenience. We live super close to the convention center. It means we get to entertain people that we don't get to see very often. So this was our second year hosting a party on Saturday night, and it was a banger. We had a great turnout, we had a great time. This was probably one of my favorite parts of the weekend, also because I was cosplaying as Jinshi. Apothecary Diaries is one of my special interests right now. Like I get so excited about it and I love Jinshi. It was fun being him and like drinking and just being silly with my friends. I loved it so much. But we probably got to the rave around midnight, right? And it was shockingly dead in there. Friday night is usually a little empty, even at bigger cons that I go to, but I feel like in the past it's been pretty packed on Saturday and it was just not that. I'm not even gonna lie, the music was not it this night at all. Like I'm not even able to give the benefit of the doubt in any way. Like it was not giving. Now JP was the DD that night, and when we got to the con, his contacts were bugging him real bad. So he was like, I think I need to go home and just put my glasses on. But when he got back to the con, they refused to let him in. They were saying no re-entry after 1 a.m., but it wasn't even 1 a.m. yet. Like if you have no re-entry, that's fine. But this information was not posted anywhere. It wasn't on the badge. There wasn't signage. Like they weren't telling you no re-entry unless it was after 1 a.m. and then they were like, hey, no re-entry. The only way he was able to get in was like he had to like flash his press badge. And even then, like he had to negotiate with multiple people to let him in. My wig was struggling in this rave. My wig was struggling bad. And you know, with long wigs, like it starts to pull back and it was just slipping and sliding. I had a trillion bobby pins in there. So the whole rave, I'm like dancing with one hand on my head. At the end of the rave, I don't remember who, but Ricky, when I catch you, Ricky, when they turned the lights on, someone looked at me and said, what's wrong with your wig? As I'm like holding it, trying like, clearly something's wrong with my wig right now. It's not staying on, but you don't have to say that. I wish we had it on video because I just ripped off my wig in like the most dramatic way possible. And I was like, I'm done. That wig was cooked. It took me hours to detangle that after the con. But another thing that was weird about the rave was I feel like it ended so abruptly. It was like they played their last song, everybody came on stage and did it out, and they're like, all right, bye. Sunday came around, and once again, somehow, by divine intervention, I was not hungover. Oh, and this is where it sucks, guys. I woke up early and I was like, I'm gonna go to the con and I'm gonna get a ton more footage. So I rushed to get over there. All of my footage from Sunday got deleted. Like it's gone. I am so upset. So for this next segment, there's going to be little to no B-roll. So enjoy looking at my face. I only have what little bit of B-roll JP got. I think what happened was I was sitting there in the con on Sunday with nothing to do. And so I was like, all right, let me just back up my stuff to the cloud real quick. So I was backing it up. Once I thought it was backed up, I deleted it off of my phone like permanently because I was almost out of phone storage, only to get home and realize none of it backed up properly. And it's all gone. If I interviewed you on Sunday, I'm sorry. It's out of my hands now. Nobody is more upset about this than me. Like, how could I fumble this bad? Okay, so with that out of the way, the first thing I did on Sunday, you're just gonna have to believe me, we went to check out the manga library, which I always like popping into but never stay for. Like you can just go in and look at all of these art books and manga. They have manga that's secondhand that you can buy, which is really nice, and it seems like just a really nice quiet place, a nice escape for people who need it, because cons can get really overwhelming sometimes. Something else that they had that I really liked was they had a table that was kind of dedicated to the history of Nekocon. They had old banners from past shows. They had all of the programs from all of the shows that they've done. Also, didn't get a program. Like, do we just not do those anymore? Or do only VIP get them? Because I remember when everybody used to get one. Just saying, maybe that had some of the information about stuff to do or re-entry that might have been useful, because not everybody wants to be a super sleuth on the website. Oh my God, let me not. I really would love for them to do a panel or just have more interactive things about Nekocon itself to help people feel more connected to the con, considering like what a big piece of local fandom culture Nekocon is. We did a few laps around the artists and the dealers, and I won an award. The Hall Costume Award. Yeah. I don't know. I was just walking around and Mau Mau came up to me, as one does, and was like, hey, I'm one of the costume judges here at Nekocon. Here you go. I was juiced. I was like, all right, let's go. After that, we went to watch my friend Connie perform their very first solo idol show, their idol debut. So I loved watching them perform. They're actually one of, if not the oldest cosplay friend that I have. I just loved watching them do their thing. And with that, we were thoroughly exhausted and ready to say goodbye to Nekocon for 2025. I think Nekocon has done a really good job on fixing the small things, like more places to sit, more food options, the yard sale, trying to optimize their space. I also didn't hear about any huge incidents or drama, especially things involving staff. I know there were some things internally that I didn't like. There were some things that just don't make sense to me, like their cyberpunk theme for this year. It wasn't reflected anywhere in the con. I just also wish that Nekocon would work on their communication across the board. Communication with press members, with their vendors, with their artists, with the attendees, because everything just felt very disconnected and disorganized. It's very important to recognize, and I think a lot of us do recognize, how hard staff works year-round to make these conventions happen. And it's inevitable that things are going to go wrong during convention weekends, things that are out of their control, and they can't always react in the moment in the best way. But that is just one side of a coin. Of course, the other side is the attendee and staff and volunteer and press and artists and everybody else's experience. When it comes to Nekocon's improvement, I really wish that they would work on refining what they have rather than growth. To me and to many other people that I've spoken to, Nekocon acts like they are so much bigger than they actually are. To me, Nekocon acts like they're on the same caliber as something like Katsucon, even though it couldn't be further from the truth. With Nekocon, they charge tickets that are similar in price to a con like Katsucon or Otakon, but they can't deliver that same quality and that same experience, so it just doesn't feel fair. And I think it would be so much better to improve the existing attendees' experience by making tickets more reasonable for what they get, by providing more things that make Nekocon stand out, that make people want to travel for it, and just more interactive things in general. More workshops, games, photo booths, swap meets, raffles, more things to do at night besides just raunchy panels. I think part of why the turnout this year was so much smaller is because people are tired of the inconsistency. They're tired of paying so much for so little, especially when what they're getting is not guaranteed in terms of quality. That makes sense to me. But there is another angle that I look at it from, and it's that maybe I am just getting older. I talked about experiencing cons differently physically, but emotionally as well. When I was 16, 17 going to Nekocon, I was so easily entertained because going to an anime convention was a rare treat and it felt like the most amazing thing in the world. Now that I'm older and I've gone to so many different cons and I've done so much cosplay and it's not as new to me as it used to be, I definitely see myself getting numb to it sometimes. And I try really hard to keep the wonder and whimsy alive, but it's one of those things where it's just different as you get older. And I have to ask myself if that's why maybe these cons don't seem as good to me anymore. I try not to think about it too hard for too long because it is very bittersweet, like growing up, going to cons and getting older doing it and still loving it, but watching it change and watching your experience change. I'm not afraid to admit that aging scares me a little bit. And when I'm seeing how that translates into my hobbies, such as cosplay and conventions, like, yeah, it's a little scary. It's a little different. At the end of the day, Nekocon holds a special place in my heart, and I'll probably keep going for as long as I possibly can, as long as I'm nearby at least. I really hope that they can figure out the right mix to make it the best that it can possibly be, because I really do believe that they can get there. It's just a matter of priorities, I feel, but that's just from an outside perspective. If you went, make sure that you fill out the feedback survey that's on their website right now, because one of the most important things when we're talking about cons and changes is giving that feedback. I already filled mine out, so you have to as well. But if you went to Nekocon this year, what did you think about the experience? I would love to hear all of your thoughts and opinions. And if you didn't go to Nekocon, Sure, I'd love to hear your thoughts and opinions too. If you'd like to see more content from the con or just from me in general, make sure that you follow me on Instagram. I love hearing from you guys. I love ideas for future video topics, but you can either comment below, you can DM me on Instagram, or you can email me right here. And of course, make sure that you like and subscribe so that you can become one of Ezra's faves, where I talk about anime, cosplay, fandom culture, popular culture, literally whatever I feel like talking about. Guys, look at my nails. I did them myself. These are the nails of the week, guys. Anyways, I'm gonna go because it is so unbelievably hot in this apartment right now, and I'm wearing like all these thick layers and I'm dying, guys, so I'm gonna go fix that. Okay, bye.